So the rumor mill really hasn't slowed down today. You might have seen my last video about how apparently Starfield is set to release on the PlayStation 5 later this year, and that's according to a report from Xbox Era. If you missed that video or the report itself, I will link them both in the description below. However, as soon as that video went live pretty much, another report dropped, this time from The Verge, and The Verge is saying it's not just Starfield. According to them, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle could also be releasing on PlayStation 5 after it first launches on Xbox and PC. And mind you, this is mere weeks after the Xbox Developer Direct, where that title was touted as an Xbox and PC exclusive. So another wild story. I'll tell you everything you need to know. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that is possible. But let's get into this news. So this article from The Verge, linked in the description below, is entitled Microsoft Weighs Launching Indiana Jones on the PS5. It starts off by saying Bethesda's upcoming Indiana Jones game is also tentatively set to launch on Sony's PlayStation 5 console. We got our first glimpse of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle during Microsoft's Xbox Developer Direct event last month, where it was announced for Xbox and PC. A source familiar with Microsoft's plans tells The Verge that Bethesda is also considering bringing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to PS5. Now, this is a bit of a weird statement because, of course, Bethesda has a say. Machine Games is developing it, they're publishing it. But at the end of the day, it's an Xbox decision. It's not a Bethesda decision. Like, Bethesda doesn't have that much sway. They can absolutely get vetoed either way by Xbox. So I don't know why they're saying it's up to Bethesda. Anyways, moving on. They say a new multi-platform approach for certain Xbox games is emerging inside Microsoft, we're told, with the company weighing up which titles will remain exclusive and others that will appear on Switch or PS5 in the future. Indiana Jones appears to be part of this new wave of multi-platform games. While Bethesda will launch its Indiana Jones game first as an Xbox console exclusive, it's currently set to have a rather short period of exclusivity, we're told. A release for PS5 is being considered for some months later, with Bethesda tentatively targeting a December 2024 launch for the Xbox and PC versions. Exact timing and platform availability for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle could change, particularly as Microsoft's new multi-platform approach for Xbox games hasn't been finalized. Microsoft has been evaluating bringing certain Xbox exclusives to PS5 and Nintendo Switch in recent months. Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush have both reportedly been under cross-platform consideration, and we understand Microsoft has also looked into bringing other Xbox games to rival consoles. An Indiana Jones launch on PS5 would certainly be a surprise, but we're told there's still an intense debate internally at Microsoft over which Xbox games to bring to rival consoles. It now looks like Microsoft has settled on some Xbox titles making their way to PS5 and Nintendo Switch, but like I said last month, the devil will be in the details. Now, there's another article that I want to highlight now as well, and that is from Jez Corden. Of course, it's from him. I'll link that in the description below too. But Jez, though he doesn't necessarily bring new information to the table, what he does do in his latest article is corroborate a lot of what The Verge and Xbox Era is saying. Not necessarily about Indiana Jones and Starfield specifically, but more that there are intense debates happening within Microsoft about this topic. So there are two paragraphs in particular that I want to emphasize from Jez's article. The first one says the following. For what it's worth, our sources have been indicating to us since early December that Sea of Thieves was slated for a multi-platform release, although we were unable to fully verify it at the time. Later on, various outlets' reports and rumors began to swell that Hi-Fi Rush, last year's surprise hit action game, is also slated for multi-platform treatment. The rumor gained additional credence when Datamine Assets hinted at PlayStation Blue and Nintendo Red in-game t-shirts to celebrate the multi-platform launch. And later he says, as of writing, I'm unable to verify the specificity of Starfield coming to PlayStation, but I can confirm that Microsoft, as of right this second, is planning to launch more and more of its Xbox exclusives onto PlayStation and Nintendo Switch where applicable. The part of the report from Xbox Era I can corroborate is that the decision to do this has been the subject of stringent internal debate and even now seems to be perceived as a huge risk. I don't blame anyone with an Xbox thinking that. I think it's a huge risk too. I think it's a risk bringing at least your biggest exclusive titles to competing platforms. Not necessarily all exclusives, but your biggest ones like Starfield and Indiana Jones. It's clearly going to be massive. I think that's a risk. However, let's take a step back and go to our baseline. Our baseline, as always, is grain of salt. We don't know whether this stuff is 100% real until Xbox confirms it officially themselves. Until Phil Spencer or Matt Booty or Sarah Bond comes out and says, yeah, Starfield is coming to PlayStation 5, or yeah, Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation. Until they do that, we need to treat this stuff as unverified rumor and speculation. But that being said, you know the old adage, there's no smoke without fire? We have literally 3 different journalists saying at minimum these debates are vigorously happening at Xbox, right? They're internally debating this heavily, and there are different sources confirming that. So I'm willing to believe that part of the story at the very least. And if you believe that part of the story, then of course Starfield's part of that discussion. Of course Indiana Jones is part of that discussion. If they're having a general debate as to which games they make exclusive and not exclusive, everything is on the table. So at minimum, they are having these discussions. Now, whether it's actually going to happen, whether Starfield's actually going to come to PlayStation or Indiana Jones is actually going to come to PlayStation, time will tell. But it feels like plans can still change. If there are that many people within Xbox who are a little bit unsure and hesitant about it, there's every chance that while these discussions are real, that plans might actually change down the road. They might see how negative all the feedback is, especially from Xbox fans, and decide to pivot and change course. I believe that they've done that a couple of times in the past when stuff has been leaked and rumor has come out. And maybe that's why those leaks and rumors come out in the first place. I mean, who really knows? Maybe someone at Xbox is trying to get stuff changed. Now, I do want to talk about Indiana Jones specifically because while I did say I didn't understand the Starfield situation, I think this one makes even less sense because if you think about it, Starfield at the very least has been out for a few months, right? It's been out for a while. They've been able to sit on that game, stew on it, see how console sales are going, Steam sales are going, Game Pass subscriptions are going. And then over those months, I can more understand, right, why they would change their mind on exclusivity, right? I would understand if they didn't believe it sold well enough that they would change their mind over time. But when it comes to Indiana Jones, they literally just announced it as exclusive to PC and Xbox at their developer direct mere weeks ago. That just happened. And now you're suddenly changing your mind. Again, if it's real, now they're suddenly changing their mind. That's a little bit more tough to swallow. I think it's a hard one. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially for those of you that have invested into the Xbox ecosystem. So I definitely understand if you're a little bit frustrated about that. I still don't understand Starfield, but at the very least, it's a little more understandable. However, I do want to bring up a lot of the arguments that some of you made in my last video because there was a lot of good discussion happening on that last video. And I don't just want these videos to be a one-way thing. So by far the biggest comment that came up is that, of course they did it. It's a huge moneymaker for them, right? It makes so much sense monetarily why they would release a once exclusive game onto other platforms so they get more money, right? And as I said in that last video, as I said in the Hi-Fi Rush video, margins are getting razor thin in the games industry. AAA games in particular are getting so bloody expensive to develop. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars here, right? So when you don't release your game onto another platform with a huge audience that's unique and that can't otherwise purchase your game, of course, you need to have a really, really good bloody reason to do that, because if you don't do it, you are leaving so much money on the table, and that's, of course, what Xbox is clearly debating here, right? So what is that reason not to do it? Well, to date in the games industry, it hasn't been about selling your hardware. It's been about exclusives and how no one will really want to buy your console or hardware unless you have some exclusive titles to it, because if you don't, I might as well go buy a PlayStation or I might as well go buy a Nintendo, right? That has been the reason why exclusives have existed. And I'm not saying that I agree with them or that I like them or that I'm defending them. If I had one box that could play everything, I would much rather prefer that. I don't want to have a PlayStation 5 and a PC and a Nintendo Switch and all these consoles if I don't have to. That's just more money that I'm spending. If everything could be available on the same console or the same piece of hardware, I'd be a much happy man. But that is the situation that we're in, all right? Exclusives drive console sales. That is a huge, huge consideration here. So it's not just about, yeah, they'll be able to make more money selling Starfield on PlayStation. While that's technically true, you are undermining the overall vision, the overall plan and strategy of selling more consoles, selling more hardware with those exclusive games. So that's part of the discussion. We have to consider that as well. However, I do want to say, someone mentioned this in my last video, and I found it to be very, very compelling. If you really think about it, if you assume all all this stuff to be true, right, about them wanting to bring Starfield, Indiana Jones, and other games to PlayStation, if you assume that to be true, you kind of also have to say within Xbox, they've probably come to the realization they've lost the console war against PlayStation. They've absolutely lost the battle against PlayStation and Nintendo as well when it comes to selling consoles and hardware. Because if that hasn't happened, then yeah, none of this makes a lot of sense. I understand that, yeah, they're making a lot of money by doing this, but the argument for selling consoles and using exclusives to do that has been one that they've touted in the past. For the past few years, they've been all about selling exclusives, developing exclusive games for Xbox players. When they bought ZeniMax for $7.5 billion, they literally said this is about bringing more exclusive games to Xbox. That has absolutely been their strategy to date. It has been. So in the midst of that, for them to just say that, yeah, Starfield is going to be coming to PlayStation and now Indiana Jones is going to be coming to PlayStation, that's a huge paradigm shift. It is a huge, huge change. So something had to have changed within Xbox, and it's probably them realizing they lost the battle against PlayStation. It's probably them realizing that we can't do this anymore. All the exclusives that we've had haven't really moved the needle when it comes to our Xbox consoles, haven't really moved the needle when it comes to Game Pass. So we might as well just make as much money as we can on these games. They've probably come to that realization. But yeah, I'm done. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I tried to cover both sides of the argument here. And until next time, this has been the Lonebot Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.